Woman Who Chat is sponsored by Grow Radio. Grow Radio is an online radio station dedicated to bringing you a different podcast on the hour every hour. I'm proud that Woman Who Chat is played on Grow Radio every Tuesday at 3 p.m. and Friday at 8 a.m. and to be part of their podcasting community. If you want to listen to the station, explore their shows, get your podcast onto Grow Radio, and check out many of the blogs to improve your podcasting skills. So head over to growradio.uk today. Welcome to Woman Who Chat, and today I'm chatting to the amazing Dawn Owen. Hello, Dawn.
Ooh, that was nice. Hello.
Well, I was going to give you this whole sort of big build-up and everything. I thought, well, there's no better person to give themselves a big build-up than you. So tell us what you do.
So I call myself a zero BS, high vibe AF coach. I work with women mainly who are in business. I don't really like to call myself a business coach because I think we're just like coaching the people who have businesses. And so, yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, and obviously that we've known each other for a long time. I was trying to think back actually how long that was. I think it's well over a decade.
It is.
And you know, we've sort of come into and out of each other's sort of auras and business life through the years, but you know, you've remained constant throughout that period, and I know that not only have you been a coach, but you've also run a business, you know, your dad's business, and you took that through to sale, so you've got a lot of business experience behind you.
Yeah, I think so. I was talking the other day to someone about this, about being in business, and I think if you go right back when we all start a business, generally we start in the thing that we've been working in. And generally we kind of have that, you know, F this moment. I can do this better than they can. And we leave because we think our boss is an idiot and we can do better. And I think, well, certainly for me, and I know a lot of people that I speak to, you have that, you're in that 2IC position, that second in charge, and that's very different from running your own business. And I remember when I started, so my first business was insurance broking, and I remember sitting there on the first day, got these posh service offices, you know, board table, coffee machine. I was like, oh my God, I've made it. And then I'm like, oh gosh, the phone, the phone doesn't ring. You know, it just used to ring before and I'd pick it up and sell. That was it.
Yeah.
And it's all these other things that come in. And I think, you know, it's having those experiences of running someone else's business, running my own small businesses, and then, you know, the garage, which was the, you know, big business, all sets you up for the different experiences that you have.
Yeah, and I think, and now I'm a big believer, and it's something I want to chat to you about, is you know, with coaching and mentoring. You're a coach. I tend to mentor because I can't keep my mouth shut and I come up with too many ideas. So, you know, all this questioning isn't in my natural sphere, although, you know, I am a coach as well, but I don't say I'm a coach in that way. But every coach needs a coach and every mentor needs a mentor, because even though you're a business coach, you know, I bet you have coaches throughout your business world. And, you know, I've had business coaches, and I don't mind saying that you are currently my business coach. And I say currently as well, not in a derogatory way or to keep you on your toes, Dawn. It's because as we evolve and as we move forward, we need different types of coaches for different types of things. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so to address that point, the different coaches for different things, I think that's absolutely true. And someone came to me just a few weeks ago and we got on really well, and I would love to have worked with her, but I'm just not the coach of where she is right now. I might be in a couple of years. And I think as a coach, you know, there are, well, probably hundreds of thousands of them. You need to be clear about what it is that you coach on. So whilst I have business experience and I have business strategy and I do share that with people, predominantly I'm around the mindset and the energy pieces, and I can throw in some business strategy. But if someone came to me and said, I want to scale and exit my business, then I'm like, I'm not the coach for you. I could dabble in that, but I don't see what the point is. So I think from both sides, from the person who wants coaching, you need to know what it is that you want. And from the coach, you need to know what it is that you offer. So I totally agree, you know, it's the right coach for the right moment. And then to the point of having your own coaches. I mean, I remember when, I think I've probably been in business about a year when I got my first coach, and I literally vomited in my mouth when I, like, you know, invested the money, because you in the start it's very much money in, money out, isn't it? And then you realize actually I need to make an investment in myself. And, you know, coaching, yes, there are some who, you know, charge lower fees and some higher fees, and it is a huge investment. And when you think, oh my gosh, is this going to work? And I'll probably come back to talk about that later. It's like it is a huge investment. So since then, I've always had ongoing coaches or mentors, you know, and I've currently got a coach, and I'm in a mastermind as well, because we have that blind side, don't we, when it comes to our own stuff, our own personal stuff and our business stuff. So for me, that's, you know, that's what a coach is there. It's to kind of show you the shadow self, if you will, and try and, you know, work out how you can combat that to get to where you want to go.
I think, you know, when you're in business on your own, especially, I mean, when I had my first business, I took on a business partner quite early on. It wasn't the right business partner, and I eventually bought them out. But it's a lonely place to be, running a business, especially when you start growing and it's that growth spurt, and then suddenly you're taking on other people and you still can't share everything with them because they are your employees at the end of the day. But you need to be able to talk. You need, in essence, you need to be able to go and offload, don't you, and get that helicopter view, or somebody else to say, now come on, stop being so negative, why can't you do that?
Yeah, of course. And I think if you think about in life, you know, you have your best friend who you go to, or your hairdresser sometimes, maybe, and offload all your personal crap to them. And I think that's the thing in business, and particularly women, I do think we get quite isolated, because, you know, I love social media, but it presents the picture that everyone's doing really well. And so from the outside, people can be sat there going, oh, you know, Sandra's got it all together, she's doing really well, you know, she's here, there and everywhere, you know, why can't I do that? And I think that can paralyze us sometimes. So having someone to discuss that with and look at, you know, okay, so what are your things and what can you bring out and what's going on in your mind that's stopping you, is absolutely, you know, paramount importance.
And, you know, when I say every coach needs a coach and every mentor needs a mentor, it's because I work with a lot of coaches, and quite often, sometimes I say, well, I don't need any coaching because I'm a coach and I know how to do all that. But you don't. Well, you know the stuff, and we all know the stuff in business. I know stuff in business. You know, I know how to do my accounts, but I still go to my accountant because they're the expert in that. You need the experts in the different fields, don't you, to actually.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy. Anyway, I love that. You know, I know how to do my accounts, basically, but, you know, but we go to an accountant, or we get a bookkeeper, or we get an HR person. And I think, so I'll keep it low rant level, but, you know, when I see some coaches and some really big people, gurus, if you like, and they hold themselves up as the finished article, you know, for me, I believe we're never the finished article, because there's that phrase, the new level, new devil. And that's what I see, and that's what my experience is for myself and the people that I work with, because something will always come along and you'll be like, I don't know how to deal with that. That's blocking me, that's stopping me. And so then you have your next evolution. And when I look back at myself and see the evolution, you know, that I've had, then I know without having someone to reflect to and reflect back to me, I definitely, you know, wouldn't have come on as much. And even just last year, in fact, and I can always pinpoint it. So I was in the park walking the dog, and that's where I normally listen to podcasts. And I was listening to this one podcast. This would be about just over 12 months ago now. And I just stopped still in the park, and I thought to myself, this woman knows exactly what I know. The only difference is she's absolutely embodying this and I'm not. And that's when I went and got another coach to work on that next level with me. And you need to have that self-awareness to go, okay, you know, yeah, I know this stuff, but am I using it? Yeah. You know, you hear these things over time, don't you? And I also believe you have to be ready to hear something, you know, and it's presented to you at the right time. But it's like, oh, that was a real light bulb moment for me. And that's what outside help coaching and mentoring can do for you.
Yeah, and I think, you can be the most successful person in business or just starting out, but when your mind is opened up to a new way of thinking,
Yeah.
so much can happen. And I'm going to refer to something. I've recently attended your High Vibe Live. And it's a full day of working on you. And how often do we step outside our own business to work just on ourselves? And that's whether you're working on something personally or working on something in business. And I found myself throughout the day just having these, I was, copiously scribbling away, making loads of notes, because that's what I do when I go to these things. So I can go home with my shiny new notebook, which I love your notebooks, and say, I've made pages and pages of notes. And then what do? We stick them on a bookshelf and ignore them. But what I did do this time was at the bottom of each page, I put my little light bulb moments so that I could go back and pick up those light bulb moments. And then as soon as I got back, I didn't even put the book away. I was in action. And I know that's one of your big things, isn't it? Take action.
Yeah.
Because there's no point going to see a coach and then doing nothing with it and sticking it on the shelf. So, is that what most people do? Do they just sit there for their coaching session and then don't take action? Or
Not with me.
Not with you.
Not with me, they don't. This actually brings me round to something I was going to say about, because when I said about investing in a coach, and I was like, oh, is it going to work? And I'm worried. It's this question of whose responsibility is it to get the success out of coaching? And this might be a bit controversial, but so it's the coachees. So my methods, my strategies, my tools, they work because I have people who are super successful in using them. And so when we go into coaching, we have to go in with the thing of, okay, how can I get the best out of this investment? When I made my last investment in a coach, it was another, vomit in the mouth moment. And I think you have to have that, because if it's not stretching you, then, that's a good sign, I think. It's a good sign. And I sat there thinking, right, how can I go all in on this? How can I rinse the absolute maximum return on investment out of this money that I am, investing into this mastermind program? And that's about making sure that I'm showing up for all the appointments and I'm doing all of my homework and I'm applying it in between. And it comes first out of everything. And like you said about the High Vibe Live, or any event like it, you take loads of notes. I've done it myself, and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm totally going to do this. And then you get back and you put your notebook in a thing, and you might find the notebook 12 months later. You go, oh, remember that? It's great. Great that was. Well, what was great about it? It's fantastic for me when people walk away from an event and say, that was amazing. But I really want them to be able to take action. And so I think it comes down to, yes, the coach has a responsibility to put in the accountability, but the ultimate responsibility for the success for me lies with the coachee, because they've actually got to go and take the action.
Yeah, and I get the same with my mentoring, in the Woman Who Achieves Academy. I provide all the tools, I provide the opportunities, I give them all the learning, but I say those that gain the most are the ones that actually do something with it. And, so many, and there, people do sign up for things and then just sit back and expect the magic to happen for them. And you've got to be prepared to put in the work yourself. There's no point investing in personal development or a coach or a mentor without actually doing something yourself, because you can't just sit back and let it happen, because it won't.
You can't sit back and let it happen. You can't expect to, have coaching sessions and then just, I don't know, by some miraculous, I love the woo and the law of attraction and all of that stuff, but you still have to work. No one's going to drop the Ferrari on your drive or whatever. You've got to take the action. You've got to get to work on the actions that you set for yourself. You can do all the journaling and meditating that you like, and I'm a big fan of that. And you use that to springboard you to be able to take more action.
Yeah, I call it magic wand moments. If I could wave a magic wand, what would you wish for? Well, you've actually got, you've got the wish there. You've got the goal. You've got the vision of what you want. But I haven't got fairy dust. I wish I had, and I can't sprinkle it. I should issue everybody with fairy dust when they sign up and say, this is going to work for you. But it isn't quite like that.
And that would be great, wouldn't it? But you just, you have to put the work in. And I think that's why people So what I would say is that, you know, it's a doubt in yourself. If you're thinking, oh my God, will this work? It's like, well, will I work? Will I put the work in to make it work? Because that's the missing piece, really.
Yeah. Well, you had a mini rant earlier on, so I'm going to have a mini rant now. So it's my turn. So one of my rants was, well, let me just say this. I remember well over a decade ago, probably 2 decades ago, going to networking events and coming away and saying, oh my God, it's full of life coaches, you know, and people didn't sort of they'd just say, I'm a life coach. And they didn't really sort of say what they specialized in. And there is coaches for everything now. There's business coaches, there's weight loss coaches, there's menopause coaches, all really valid. And it's more acceptable now to have a coach. So here's my rant.
Okay.
What gets my goat is the number of coaches that set up and say, I'm a business coach, but they've never run a business, or I'm a this coach, but they've never trained in it, never. And, you know, there are some really good coaches out, sort of nutrition coaches that have done a lot of training, got a lot of qualifications, and, you know, hats off to them for doing that. And I really applaud that. But what about all these coaches that give coaching a bad name?
Yeah, so I have to rein myself in here, definitely. I agree. Like I said earlier, there are lots and lots of coaches, and, you know, coaches, you know, all sorts of things. And also people who have adopted the term coach when maybe that's not what they actually do. I think it's just the word, isn't it, of the moment. For me, so you don't have to have, this is not about certificates and qualifications. I mean, coaching is unregulated anyway. But you do have to have lived experience, as far as I'm concerned, to be authentic. I think, and I know that word gets used a lot, but how can you be authentic if you haven't walked the walk yourself? You know, you might have a qualification in some sort of business coaching, for instance, but then when someone comes to you and they're facing the real world problems, not ones that are created in a textbook, you're not going to know what to do if you haven't got the experiences of that yourself. And so, yeah, I'm not a fan. I join you. Let's not go off on ranty city. But yeah, I absolutely agree. It's like you have to have some kind of lived experience of the area that you're in. It's your story, isn't it? It's your journey. Look, this is what happened to me, and this is how I used it, and this is how I am now. You're your own first client, really.
Well, you are. And, you know, I couldn't talk about visibility if I hadn't walked the walk myself. And the same with business. You know, I think I'm on my 5th business at the moment. You know, it is learned experience. And I don't call my past errors mistakes. I call them learning curves. And if I can impart that knowledge to somebody else and say, look, this happened to me, you know, I can help you, because I don't want you to waste time and money and go through the same experience. So that's where it comes into play, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And also, you know, just reflecting on yourself as a coach, and just like, you haven't got all your shit together, you know, something's going to come along, because that for me is inauthentic to say, oh, now I do this, and so this thing never happens to me. It's just not life, is it? You know, because life happens, and so there are going to be challenges all the time, and you need to, you know, evolve yourself and either get more coaching, or, you know, realize what the block is and move on. So yeah,
about keeping it real. And I do love the, you know, the fact that, you know, authenticity is important. It's about being unique, but it's about being your true self as well and keeping it real. I'm conscious of time, and you and I chat for hours, but what I want to ask you really to share is, if someone's looking for their next coach or a coach, what sort of questions should they be asking, or what should they be expecting, you know, before they jump straight in?
Yeah, I think for them to have an idea of what their challenges are. So, you know, we could all kind of look at ourselves and go, well, where do I start? You know, we all have moments like that. But it's like, okay, what is it that you're actually looking for? If you had that magic wand, what's that going to look like? So that quite often people know what they don't want. And that's as good a starting point as any. You can say, I don't want this anymore. I don't want this. I don't want this. I don't want this. Okay, what do you want instead? So what does the outcome look like? Because you need to be able to measure that, both sides, the coach and the coachee, of like, okay, is this working? Are we going in the right direction? So I think having a clear idea of, definitely what you don't want and ideally what you do want, is a really good starting point. And I would also say, just find someone that you feel you can be totally honest with, because if you are not 100% honest with your coach, they're not, it's like fighting with one hand behind your back. You can't give the right direction, ask the right questions, and get them their outcome if they're not being 100% honest. So I think that comes down to looking around for the coach that you are going to be, happy with. And you do that by, maybe following them on social media and stuff like that, and seeing if they speak your language and they're your kind of person. And then just take that step and have a conversation. And I've just got another mini rant here, which just brought me to. So yeah, so I would say, let's have a chat. And I see the fear in people's eyes, or I can read it in their message, because what they think is, oh, I'm going to be jumping on a sales call where you're just going to use your Jedi mind tricks to, make me give you my credit card. And for me, I cannot speak for anyone else, but for me personally, it's not about that. It's about you coming on the call, you telling me about you, about where you are and what you want, and then me seeing if I'm the right person for that. And I've got no problem in saying, I'm just not the right person for you. I can maybe recommend somebody else who is, possibly, if I know someone in that field. But yeah, for me, it's not, we've all seen them, the discovery call, the clarity call. I use some of those words myself, but just for you, the right coach, don't be afraid to jump on those calls. No one can sell to you if you don't want to buy, and you can set that up in the beginning. However, if you find the right coach, then I would also say, don't delay, just jump in, make a decision. We talked about this, didn't we, at the event on Sunday? Decide it's either a yes or no, because a no is a really powerful decision and then frees you up to move on. And a yes is also powerful because it means you can start dealing with all the crap that you've come on with in the first place. It's like, how long do you want to remain in that painful place before you take some action? So yeah, I think knowing what you don't want, hopefully what you do want is good. Find someone that you're prepared to be 100% honest with, and then just take the action and go for it.
Absolutely. And yeah, you're right about decisions. I mean, I did sit on it for a while because I was in between coaches, and sometimes I've had more than one coach for different aspects, which is, again, some people have different coaches for different things. But yeah, it's just JFDI, isn't it? And I think it's about sharing values as well. I think you've got to resonate with a coach. I had one coach many, many years ago, and I used to dread going because, especially if I hadn't done my homework, and I didn't want to do my homework because I didn't like the coach. And yeah, you've got to gel with your coach. You've got to have that relationship, and you've got to have that trust. I think that's really important, isn't it?
Definitely.
Well, we're going to be seeing a lot more of Dawn later on this year. So when you're listening to this, Dawn will be, obviously, we'll put in the link for your next High Vibe Live into the show notes. Dawn has got her own High Vibe Live podcast as well. So again, we'll pop the link in the show notes. But Dawn is going to be my co-presenter at the Woman Who's Solopreneur Awards later this year. And I'm really looking forward to that, only because when she announced it, she talked about glitter balls and princesses and unicorns and new shoes. So yeah, we'll have to colour coordinate, obviously.
100%. I'll just say on that, I'm already keeping my eye out. If anyone watched Elton John's set at Glastonbury, he had a singer on who had a head to toe pink suit, and I thought, ooh, there's an idea.
I'm not going through for the see-through one that came on,
as well. No, definitely.
But we will coordinate. So yeah, lots coming up in the future for you and for Woman Who as well, and for High Vibe Live. So thank you for sharing and having a mini rant session with me.
Rants, love them.
Before we leave today, I always ask my guests to share a top tip or piece of advice with my audience. So what would your top tip or piece of advice be, Dawn?
Gosh, just one. I think if I could just boil it down to one thing, it would have to be trust your gut. Because, we just talked about decisions earlier on. And again, I believe we always actually know. We might not want to know what is being presented to us, but I think we do deep inside always know what is the decision to make or the action to take, and we just try to ignore that And if it's not something that we particularly like or seems particularly appealing. But in my experience, you know, almost 100% of the time, your gut is really powerful. It's part of you. It's your unconscious mind, you know, and it's there for a reason. And so trust your gut.
I love that. Go with your gut. It's been great chatting to you today, Dawn. That's Dawn Owen. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.